Aha, attempt two. Buonasera a tutti. Good evening, y'all. We are back, episode number 82 of What's the Scoop? And of course, NFL opening Thursday. It is Thursday, September 4th, 2025. I know all three of us are excited. Having the opening game, we've got the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not going to spend too long on my intro this time, and because I know we all want to get to our very exciting special guest, and we're looking forward to hearing what he's got for us tonight. So that's just it. I'm fired up about this game. I'm fired up that it's Dallas, and everybody's back to 0-0 now. You know, the Super Bowl is now history, and while that ring will last forever, it's up to chasing the next one now. So how are y'all feeling? I'll go to Brandon.
Oh, man. Opening night is special every year. I mean, regardless of us winning the Super Bowl or not, it's just you get that little chill in the air, and you kind of get excited. Football's back, but it's nice to reminisce about the past. But we gotta look forward to what we got on tap this season. And I'm gonna steal a Jalenism for tonight, and it's the one that we've been quoting on this show for the past couple weeks. Keep the main thing the main thing.
Yes.
Let's get it.
Amazing. All right, and of course, our newest member of the family here, but somebody who fit like a glove right away, and somebody who I said to you was a Philadelphia Eagle fan waiting to become a Philadelphia Eagle fan, Mr. Jay Cruger. How are you doing, brother? Looking good in that all black.
Thank you, sir. I am stoked. I can't wait. I've been saying to everybody here and other places, hey, the last good day I've had in 2025 was February 9th, 2025. I'm not, with all due respect to my mom's birthday. I am excited. This is, I keep saying might be my first full year as an Eagles fan. It couldn't have come at a better time. Switched in week 2, by the way, not a front runner, but first time in 25 years we're meeting on opening night with the Cowboys. Couldn't be more excited. Fully stocked pizza is going to be probably ordered the midway through. Can't wait to see what this season's going to bring, because here's the thing. Our biggest challenge is ourselves, boys. We got to run it back, but we got to run it back even better, and we're going to do just that. We've got the weapons. Let's get this going.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better myself. Real quick, we're going to jump into a couple comments real quick. Mr. Osborne says, hey there, Swifty Scoops. Want to say hi before I get out the door in a few minutes. Go Broncos. Mr. Osborne, appreciate you stopping in for a moment. Hope you have a good time wherever you're going. Safe travels. And good luck to your Broncos this year. I've been all in on the Bo Nix guy. I've drafted RJ Harvey in more than one league this year, so he better show up for me. Looking forward to seeing what happens, and good luck to you all this season. I don't think y'all play us, so if y'all go ahead and win all 17 games, good for y'all. And that being said,
they do play us.
They do play us. All right, they can go 16-1.
Careful.
I couldn't quite remember the full schedule. Well, outside of the in-conference games, I tend to forget here and there. Unfortunately, as much as I'd love to be able to say that I've memorized all 17 games, I can't honestly do that. But that being said, guys, I know we don't want to hold him back too long. We've got a very exciting guest tonight, and I'm really grateful that through his busy schedule, he has decided to come on tonight. And I know he's been on before, and somebody who I've been looking forward to having back, and I'm now looking forward to having back as part of this awesome group now. And I know it's going to be a very well spent time. Looking forward to him bringing him on. Coach, are you back there and ready to go? All right. We've got, as a special guest today, I'm very excited to welcome and introduce a longtime family friend of mine, UFL official, former NFL official, and somebody who I think independently has forgotten more about baseball combined more than any of the three of us will ever know. And football, I should say, both sports. Somebody who has taught me a lot about both games, and I'm just so thrilled to have you on. Coach DeBell, welcome to What's the Scoop, and we're so excited to have you tonight. I'm going to just let you have the floor for a moment.
Well, I'm excited to be here. I mean, I'm amongst obviously a trio of Eagles fans, and I've had many games in Philadelphia, and the fans did not treat me well because I had those black and white stripes on. But that goes without saying in any stadium. But it was turned up a notch, let's just say, in Philadelphia. And actually, I had a few games with, as you well know, Scoop, you call her Aunt Lou, and my wife Ann, and our daughter Nikki was in the stands a few times, and they have to kind of shelter themselves and not let on that they're actually cheering for the third team out there. But, it's all in good fun. Philadelphia fans are very passionate, as you are, and I'm sure all your listeners are, and that's fantastic. If I can answer anything, that I can, I will, and we'll go from there.
Oh, I'm sure we're going to be having plenty of things from all three of us tonight, Coach, and anybody who's watching and listening. I look forward to hearing what y'all have to say. Always love engaging with the comments, and looking forward to what they have to say for you, Coach. And yes, on behalf of all Eagles fans, thank you for understanding that, because I think all three of us are none of us, I think, are blind to the fact that our fan base is definitely a unique breed.
They've been known to boo Santa, so they're definitely gonna boo a referee. So that's all good.
I'm pretty sure that happened before any of the three of us were born. Well, maybe not Jay, but I'm pretty sure that happened.
Always with the age thing somehow.
Yeah, you started it, bro. You're the first one who said it on here. Well, that being said, I want to just get to Nikki saying hi real quick. Our longtime friend of mine and somebody who's a regular commenter on the show says, "How about them Cowboys Swifty Scoops?" Yes, she's a fellow Swifty and also a big Dallas Cowboys fan. I hope you and your family enjoy the game tonight in all facets except for the score. So with that being said, obviously, I have been fortunate to talk to Coach the most throughout my life, so I want to let y'all kind of take the run on this real quick. Jay, I know both you and Brandon had a kind of a compilation of questions and dialogue that you wanted to get into. So whichever one of y'all wants to start, I know y'all had some really great topics to get into, and I want y'all to have the floor on that.
I know Jay is the lawyer here, so he is the better speaker between the two of us. So
come on.
Well, listen, I'll let you have the floor first. Go ahead.
All right, Jay, it's all you, buddy. What you got tonight?
Yeah, Coach, thanks again for coming, and thanks for all you do with your nonprofit. And I'm sure you're going to go into that a whole lot. Most of all, congrats on a career on being the steadfast law of the field, as I like to call it. You're not in a popular position, as you said. Sometimes you are, sometimes you have to make adjustments and make judgment calls in the moment. I kind of envy that, because if I'm doing a cross examination or in court or a direct examination, it's a split second. You're not always good at that. Well, you walked into Lincoln Financial, which would house 72,000, and that's just in the seats. And you've had to, probably make one or two controversial calls. So I would so my biggest thing is, at the Link or in any stadium, if you prefer, what do you think is the most controversial call you've had to make?
Well, me personally, or a football official in general?
You know what? You can do, but you can say both.
Controversial. I think it does fit into my position. Actually, I'm a side judge downfield. I was, and that's what I now train in. Position specialist is the title they give you as a supervisor of officials. But pass interference, it's just so judgment based. Now there are indicators, if I was to get into a long discussion in court as to why I called something pass interference or not. The biggest indicator as a fan, I actually had this discussion with a buddy of mine that was over. We were watching the Clemson game that was on the other night. Mm-hmm. And there was kind of a play that looked like it could have been defensive pass interference that actually was offensive pass interference. I don't know if you guys remember it. And I said, no, the indicator is the offensive player wasn't looking and playing the ball. So as you're watching as a fan, if a call is made for or against your team when it comes down to pass interference, kind of note whether that player's got his head turned and he's actually looking to play the ball, or is he just looking at the other opponent and kind of playing the man, is how we call it. So If you're playing the ball, you're allowed a little bit of hand fighting and checking because there's stuff that goes on, right? We all see that. It's like, well, why was that one not called and that one was? It might go back to whether they were playing the ball or not. So to answer your question, I'm going to say pass interference.
Okay. All right.
It's not controversial. It's just so judgmental. It's so, there's basically 7 different men or women out there officiating that all have their own level. We try to, as a supervisor, which I am now, coach up the officials to keep that level kind of at right here. And the saying I like to use is it a call we have to make or a call we could make? And if it falls under a call we have to make, well, all 4 of us sitting here would say that's a foul, whether it's for or against your team. It's a little easier to say that when you don't have a team. So let's put 2 teams out there that aren't your teams, and hopefully it's not the one you hate. But you're going to look at it a little bit more neutral when it's a game you're not vested into, right, guys?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's make that level. Anything above a call you could make is one we're all 4 going to call it on. I'm throwing my flag signal. And then if it's below that line, it's a call we could make, right? You see, am I making any sense?
You are making,
absolutely.
So as a coach and an evaluator, I grade the film of the officials. The first thing I look for is he threw his flag. All right, Jay threw his flag. Some are cut and dried. They didn't have 7 on the line. That's cut and dry. You can kind of see that more often than not on film. But when it's a judgmental one, I go right away to, is that a call we had to make? Like my mother sitting in her chair would have made it, okay? Or is it a call we could have made? If it falls into a could have, now I've got to decide whether that was a good call or not.
Yeah. And to follow on that one, so during the NFC Championship game last year, we saw, at least for me, for the first time, I saw when the official made what is probably the most amusing call that I've ever heard in my memory. Coach, I don't know if you saw it, where he comes on the mic and says, Washington has been advised that at some point we can or
I was wondering if that's where you would go with it.
Yeah. And so would you say that would be, do you think that's a call you yourself would have made at that point, Coach?
Well, first of all, you got to know who that is, and that's Sean Hockley, right? We all know.
I think so. Yeah, I think that.
Right, his dad, Ed, Big Ed, great man. I learned more from officiating from Ed than probably any on-field contemporary that I was with. Just a great teacher. I could go on and on about the sayings and the things he taught me. But Sean, that's everyone's got their own style, and the referees that turn the mic on, their style comes out when they turn the mic on. And Sean is a savant when it comes to the rules of the game, and there is an option in there to do what he did. It's not something that many officials even know are in the rule book, but Sean's so good at the rules that he knew that, and that was his way of dealing with it. It was something they kept making the same. They were trying to delay the game or committing a defense.
They kept trying to stop the tush push and failing pretty much.
Yeah, and by trying to throw themselves over the O-line.
Like they were trying to time the snap and everything. So that is it's some obscure rule. I can't even quote you the rule right now, and I'm pretty good at the rules. It's something I was known for. So it's just his style. Asking if I would have done that, I think I would have handled it differently. But I don't click the mic on, and it's so easy to be judgmental of the guys that do click the mic on, because think about it. It's not only would you say 75,000 in Lincoln Financial Field, but it's millions with an S on the end watching on TV that you're communicating with. So it is what it is.
Yeah, and it's ironic because apparently I think there was, I don't remember the other official's name in the postseason. I think there was an official in the postseason who was a lawyer, and I was surprised that it was not Sean Hockley because I said to myself, he really had to dig deep there. I was wondering if I was hearing it correctly.
I don't think any of us could.
Of course, I was having too much fun that night, and I'm like, did I just imagine that?
Yeah. Well, the tush push is a great play. I mean, it's obviously it's almost impossible to stop, and they tried to get enough owners to vote it out, but it's tough to vote something out, the first time something comes up. So,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I don't see how you really can stop it if they run it properly. It's also personnel. They have a great offensive line, and they have great.
That's just
Hurts is just as, how big are his thighs? His thighs are as big as my, torso. So
Yeah, I read somewhere today.
I think the Bills are good at it too, right? With Jared Allen,
Yeah.
So, whereas other teams that don't have that can't pull that off.
I agree.
I'm gonna let Brandon ask something before I do, because I thought of 3 new questions just while you were talking, Coach.
Yeah,
I'm known for the gift for gab. So I see one of your questions is about the Madden curse up there from.
Cody.
Cody.
Yeah. I was in Madden in 2011, Scoop. So you guys are gonna have to dig the game out and find me in there.
I got it.
Yeah, you got to, because that's
It's a Jets game. Yeah,
Okay.
they like something. I guess they were taking. I'm diverting from all your questions, but they had they take actual game film to make the Madden, and there was a play at the pylon, and I'm signaling touchdown, and it's me, and you can tell it's me in the game. But all right, go back to our question.
Yeah, I mean, are we gonna address the Madden curse before we get to my question, or
I think you should. I mean, that's a legitimate question from from Cody.
Go ahead, Brandon. Since again, I don't have that old game, so you can go ahead with the Madden start.
We'll see, because I have every Madden from 02 till now. Every Madden they made for the original Xbox all the way to the newest. So
That's awesome.
So I mean, I've been playing it since I was probably about 5-6 years old. So I mean, when it comes to the Madden curse, I mean, we've seen so many players in the last 2 decades fall victim to it the season after they have a great year. But I just don't feel, and it's not even just being an Eagles fan, I just don't feel that it's going to happen with Saquon. I feel like it's a different situation with him. He's behind a top 3 offensive line in football. He's got they have a lot of the same guys returning from last year's team, Super Bowl champion team. I think that just the coaching staff, they're not going to run him into the ground. Usually, sometimes you see with guys the next year that are on the cover, they become the focal point of an offense or a defense, whoever's on the cover, usually offense. But I can't see it. I just think Saquon's too talented. I think the offensive line is going to keep him healthy, keep him fresh. I think the team's going to keep him fresh. I think the coaching staff will keep him fresh. I don't see a world where it comes back to bite him. I think they're too focused. I think he's too focused. I mean, it happens to other running backs in the past. It's happened to CMC. It's happened to just different kinds of players. But there have been players that have kind of debunked it. I don't think there hasn't been a running back, I think, that's done it yet. Maybe, at least not for the last 12-ish years. But I think that Saquon will be just fine. I don't think anything's going to happen to him, especially with how much he trains. Like he trains harder than the average bear. So I think he's fine.
Well, and also, but I mean, you mentioned about most of the guys that have been on recently have been quarterbacks. And then you had, with the exception of that one year that, may he rest in peace, that John Madden was on. And then you had that one year that they had both Brady and Mahomes. The last 2 running backs that were on it, they had Peyton Hillis of the Browns back almost 15 years ago. And then they had a couple years after that, they had AP. It's, I think if you're looking at, the argument for the curse thing, I could see where some of the lore was with it, 10, 15 years ago. But I don't think you can really look at any of the recent quarterbacks who have been on and say, oh, wow, they really fell off. I mean, I don't think any of us are saying that Jackson fell off or that, Mahomes fell off. I mean, he struggled last year and was still better than 80% of the quarterbacks. Jay?
I think, Brandon, wasn't it you who told me that we had at one point already, there was already a break in the Madden curse?
Yeah, a couple different guys in recent years have done it, but I don't think it's ever been a running back, because running backs aren't on the cover that often, and when they are, usually the season after they have a dip. So
yeah, running back or quarterback. You know what? I think as long as Saquon does not do what Tom Brady did and go on TV and prove about how a bunch of different curses don't exist. Like where I don't know if you've seen where he breaks a mirror, deliberately walks under a ladder, and then you know what happened right after he did all of that to disprove the Madden curse? Yeah, he lost in the Super Bowl to a backup quarterback. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of him, but yeah.
I don't remember those commercials at all.
Okay, listen. So I think just exactly as Brandon said, I think not only is our staff really careful with Saquon, not only do I think that Saquon is going to be very deliberate, especially with the pressure on him now, because all eyes on us now as champions. And I think we are also one of the most strategic teams in the league, if not the most. I think we're going to be just fine. Don't worry about who's on what cover. All we got to do is, like we keep saying, the main theme is going to be we're keeping the main thing the main thing. That's all we need to do. That's all we need to show up and show out. Let them listen.
So it's 20 minutes in, and 2 out of 3 of us have already gone to that one. So I'll see how long it takes me. But I will say, as for like a question that came to my mind, we all remember, a couple of years ago, Super Bowl loss against Kansas City. We were talking. You mentioned pass interference, so I did have to, think of this when it came to the call that went against James Bradbury, former Eagle defensive back. Now I'm not going to necessarily, because I don't want to overstep too much. So I'm not going to ask flat out, would you have made the same call? But I will say, how legitimate is it that fans are looking at things and say, oh, they were calling it that way all game. They have to, why didn't they keep calling it the same way? Or, things like that. How often does maybe a sort of a judgment call earlier in the game influence the way something's called later in the game, especially in a game like the Super Bowl?
Well, I think you've got to try to set a goal to keep it the same all the time, but it's officiated by humans, so
Right.
That's easier said than done. I do know, you try to let the players dictate the game, especially
Exactly.
at the end. Let's say the last 5 minutes. Not that all of a sudden for 5 minutes, the last 5 minutes, you close your eyes and let mayhem occur.
Right.
You're not going to come out of nowhere with things that are the saying is you just got to try to manage the game, especially the ones, the Super Bowl. Manage the Super Bowl. Let the players determine who wins. That's what they want. That's what the coaches want. That's what the fans want. That's what the players want. And quite frankly, that's what the officials want. We would love to come in, have it be cut and dry that we didn't have anything to do with it, and the best team that day won. There's always going to be calls you look back on, prepping for this, Scoop, the state of officiating in all sports.
Right.
It seems like it's gotten worse because what has increased is the scrutiny.
Right.
The internet, these shows, there's you can click on anything and find people that are thinking just from their fans, from their colors, and not watching the game, antiseptically that it doesn't matter. I think I could ask anyone on your show when they watch an Eagles game, they tend to think the officials do a little bit worse job than if they just are watching a nothing game. The major call is going to jump out and say, that was bad. And,
Right.
There are incorrect calls in a game. That's what's keeping me employed. I'm an evaluator. It's a nice way of saying grader. They don't like the word grade, but that's what it is. I literally give an incorrect call if it's incorrect, and that affects the playoffs. If you're an NFL official and you get an incorrect call, that could be the difference between Jay getting the game and Jimmy getting the game. If I get the incorrect call, my percentage is going to go down and my grades are going to go down just enough that, I don't get the playoff. And we're competitive people too, and we're all trying to get a playoff game and or the Super Bowl or whatever. And, it matters to them. I know if people knew the insides of it, I don't think they'd be quite as critical. And I do think that the UFL, which I am a supervisor of officials in, is a little more transparent with their, I don't know how much you've watched, but if you've just watched one game, you're going to go, that just seemed different. What was different? And yeah, okay, the players aren't, the top. That's I correlate it to like minor league baseball. There's a guy in AAA baseball. He could play in the majors, but he just hasn't gotten that chance yet. Well, there's players in the UFL that haven't had their chance yet. But when you watch a UFL game, there's something different. What is it? Well, it's the officiating is transparent. You hear everything they're saying when they talk to each other, aside from having to cut stuff out because they're trying to keep, the cuss words down when a player does something, but or the interactions with the coaches, you hear that conversation. You hear if I go to the referee and report the foul, how I report it, how he translates that into the microphone that he clicks on. And then when they go to the replay, it's very transparent with Mike Pereira and Dean Blandino. You can hear what they're saying I'm in the booth, and you can hear what they're saying to me and what they're saying to the officials on the field. I think it doesn't seem like there's as much chatter that the UFL officials aren't doing the job. Well, it's because it's transparent. You see what the job they are doing. Whether the NFL ever gets to that, I don't know. I can't answer that. I'm not in the hierarchy of it. I think they're seeing it and they're observing what's going on in the UFL. They do that with all their new rules. They had the UFL doing the kickoff, and then they transposed that kickoff to the NFL with slight adjustments because the players are different. But I think that answers some of those questions, Scoop.
That kind of reminded me, and this I'm going to go a little bit out into left field for a second, just because that kind of reminded me of what I said in a different sports sense about the NHL with the draft lottery. If any of y'all watched the NHL draft lottery this year, they put the number combinations of when the balls are dropped, what number combinations would lead to each team getting the first pick, the second pick, whatever. And just kind of going back to that same sense of transparency, it's interesting to hear you talk about that, because I think, like you said, if you can increase that for the fans, then there's sort of, they might not be we may not be happy with the way that a call is made, but at least we're understanding, we might have a better understanding of why the call is made, or, even if we, don't like what they're saying, we at least feel like, okay, it's not something that's like, illegitimate, or that came without a sort of a train of reasoning why, that we can at least, understand.
Right. I mean that's the definition of a fan. It's a fanatic. And so
right.
you can be fanatic. It's your team. That's great. That's what paid my salary when I was in the NFL, to be a fanatic. But also, I think rational people can be fanatic, but then an hour later, a day later, 2 days later, if it was transparent and they saw it, they would say, I was mad at the time. My team lost. I felt like it was that call. But it was transparent, and I saw why. It's like when you admit you're wrong, there's nothing else a coach can do is say, Coach, I might have kicked that one, if it happened the way you said it.
Right.
I saw it in the moment when I had to make the decision. But I think with replay getting involved more and more, the transparency has to be involved more and more. And, if any of your listeners have never watched a UFL game, they should go watch it this spring. And I think they're going to say, hey, this fans do have a say. The people in the NFL listen. If enough people say we need more transparency, they're going to try to figure out a way to be a little more transparent.
That's really, and I think also for any fans who are watching, it probably does help to know, this is, these things are, obviously they're not necessarily on, every X, Twitter account or one thing or another, but I think it probably does, have a positive impact on fans to feel like, okay, our voices are being, heard,
yeah.
and the fans are being taken seriously.
Definitely.
So I know you and I have spoken about that, but I appreciated kind of the, getting a little bit more under the surface on that as well, because again, like I said, I think we all appreciate that. Jay, I know you had another thing you wanted to deed into, so I'll kick it down to you.
Oh, I had one other question. So, Coach, from what you're talking about and what I had pretty much already just assumed, the common theme that I'm hearing about from your perspective is what you do. There's still a human element involved, and a lot of fans don't, necessarily have an appreciation for the fact that you guys, the law of the field, whether or not you can admit that, maybe you blew a call or not, or whether you got to stand fast by the right call. A lot of people don't seem to understand that at the end of the day, you guys go home at night as humans like everybody else. So that stands to reason that, you get affected sometimes or you can be affected sometimes by some of the hooping and the hollering and the jeering. So what would you say, I would ask, maybe kept you grounded during some of the toughest times, some of the toughest pushbacks that you guys have gotten? And what kind of advice can you give to, younger officials coming up, in like holding fast to their judgment? How do you, what's the advice that you can give, to stay professional, but remember but for younger officials to remember their humanity, I guess?
Well, I think the good ones come up and they know how to communicate, and the coaches are the ones you deal with, and the players. And I mean, I've told players, I've told coaches, I think I already said it, Coach, if it happened the way you said it, I might have missed that. That isn't how I saw it, and when a coach is, escalating and getting loud, you meet it with soft talk. It's like, they don't like that either. They want you to escalate like they do, and that's not a good communication skill. So I think the basis of your question is, how do you deal with a mistake and you made the mistake, and then it escalates into comments or whatever.
Exactly.
You are pretty sheltered from the fan comments if you're spending time looking at that. And I think a lot of the players stay sheltered from it too. When you made a mistake, you're going to get graded and it's going to come out in the grade. But quite frankly, every time I got downgraded, I already knew it was coming. I already knew I had made a mistake. We're our own self-critics. Okay, Jay? So when you're harder on yourself, someone is coaching or training you or grading you, is nothing they say is going to really affect what you've already done to yourself. But and the bottom line is, the young ones and the guys that are veterans, you just have to tell yourself, I have to learn from that mistake. It's like, why did I make it? There's ways to correct the way you made a mistake. You're in the wrong position. You're looking in the wrong spot. You missed something that was happening over here that you should have been looked at because you were looking over there. That's what film review does. Just as much as the players watch film, officials watch film. Okay. And that's what my job is now. I sit down. I just got off of 2 one-on-one calls today, and I sat with guys that had made a few mistakes but made a few good calls, and they're young. And I'm like, all right, so you did this, this, and this. Great. Let's look at them. Let's make sure we keep doing that. This one, we could have officiated a little better. How do you feel about it? Well, every time I said that, they had already been hard on themselves and said, I think I missed it. And I'm like, okay, yes, you did. But if you were here, or you were looking here, or looking at the hands instead of the ball, like, those are all things that can help you be better. And they're constantly working to get better. So that's the transparency I'm talking about. It's tough to be critical of someone who's being hard on themselves already and knowing that they made a mistake and trying to rectify it. Now, if the same official makes the same mistake 3 times out of 12 games, he's got a problem. Okay. He's got to stop making them, or quite frankly, he won't be back. And that's what does happen. It's behind the scenes and it's not a public thing, but it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
You got a question on the board about someone's asking if there was a rule they would change, what would it be, or I would change?
Yeah.
That's our friend Kenny Kirkpatrick. Go on.
Your fans, they're asking the questions. Let's answer what they're asking.
Yeah. So it's if you could change one NFL rule currently, what would it be, Coach?
All right, it's coming from Kenny. I see that, KK, and it's a great question. There are rules out there that we all have an opinion on, and we think we would change. I'm gonna harken back to the UFL, because they are trying some of these rules that they would change. One that we do in the UFL is the forward fumble that goes into the end zone and hits the pylon. Everywhere else in the field, if you fumble the ball forward, it goes back to the team that fumbled it out of bounds. Okay, but for some reason, the NFL, and I'm sure they have their reasons, if it hits the pylon or it goes into out the back of the end zone, it's the defense's ball. Mm-hmm. So that's something they're doing different in the UFL. So I'm not going to say that one. The one I would change, and I think it would gain support from fans, is the grounding rule. Okay. I just think that so many NFL teams rely on their starting quarterback. And really, if you think about it, why does a quarterback ground the ball? Well, he's about to get, mayhemed and he dumps it away.
Mhm.
And I think when I was in NFL Europe coming up, they didn't have the grounding rule because they only had so many quarterbacks over there. The last thing they needed was the starter get hurt and then the one backup get hurt. Then what are you going to do? You're going to have the kicker play quarterback or something, So I think you'd see a little bit more longevity in a quarterback's career, and I think you'd see less teams being devastated by losing their starting quarterback if you just allowed them to dump it. I mean, what's the big deal? If I'm back there and I decide this isn't going to work and I dump it, and now I got to go back 15 yards or I got to go back where I dumped it from. I just think that's a archaic rule that was in there and could get, it could get fan support to get rid of. And I think coaches would support it. I just don't know why it's never been instituted or at least tried in preseason or something. That's me.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that too.
Absolutely. I also, Coach, I just as something from conversations that you and I have had. One, I was glad that you brought up your because that's one of my favorite things that you've ever said to me was the meeting loud talk with soft talk. It's one of my favorite quotes that you've said before, and also I have to ask now for as we kind of pivot to story time a little bit. I know that you've got a fun story that goes with the name Pylon. Do you mind sharing that with us for a moment?
I guess I would have had it up here if you asked me if I knew you were going to ask. I didn't know it was going to come up. Back in the 2009, I think it was, they had the AFC was the old AFL, right? That's why there's the AFC. Mm-hmm. The AFL, I believe, started in 59. So for some reason, 2009 was an anniversary, 30th anniversary of the AFL. So they had a lot of the original AFL teams wearing their old school AFL uniform against NFL, quote, teams. And when they had those games, they actually had the officials wearing orange striped uniforms. If anyone wants to Google original AFL referees uniforms, they looked like the NFL black and white, only it was orange and white. And I'm not going to stand up, but I am a very somewhat tall, thin person, very thin, somewhat tall, probably shorter than tall, but thinner than not thin. So I'm skinny. Sherman, Richard Sherman's nickname for me was the skinny sheriff. He'd see me come out on the field before the game and he'd say, "All right, boys, we got to behave today. The skinny sheriff's here." So that's part of the Pylon story. And then the other part is we were wearing the orange stripes in a game. I think it was the AFL original Jets against someone. And a play ended near the pylon at the goal line. And across the field, I'm a side judge, and across the field is the field judge. He's on the pylon also, looking across at me. And Steve Zip Zimmer, one of the best officials I ever worked with, certainly one of the best downfield officials. At the time, Zip had been in the league a while, and he had a propensity for food. All right, I'll start with that. And he was not what I would call the skinny sheriff. So this play ends by the pylon, and across the field during a TV timeout comes Zip. And I was a rookie, and Zip was a veteran, and he was always helping me and coaching me and giving me advice. And he comes over, and I'm like, oh, geez, he's coming over to tell me I did something wrong, right? But he's got this, like, smirk on his face. I'm like, what's up with Zip? So Zip comes over. We all have nicknames, and he goes, "Hey, I couldn't tell the difference between you or the pylon because you're both so tall and skinny." And I'm like, oh my God. So that it was a nickname that stuck, and I was the pylon for the rest of my career. And I still get texts from people and they call me Pylon or whatever. But I would have had the orange shirt out here if you had told me you were going to ask that, Scoop.
Well, I had no idea the conversation was going to go that way. So, Brandon, did you have another one?
Yeah. Coach, I mean, I love watching the UFL, and I think a lot of people don't kind of give it a chance.
What do you like about it? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, I mean, I just like the fact that it's giving players, coaches, even officials, it just
Officials.
kind of
Yeah, they hired 6 officials in the NFL and 5 came from the UFL last year. Yeah.
yeah. I like that. It's kind of
Patting myself on the back.
like I like that it's bridging kind of the gap between like college and the pros, and it's kind of like
Right.
it's a developmental thing, and
Right.
because we didn't see that 10 years ago. There was we just didn't have those kinds of leagues. So I was going to ask you about just, I guess, the UFL and how kind of has that in a way, what have you seen? Because 10 years ago we didn't have those kinds of leagues, those developmental leagues. So like, what have you seen in terms of, I guess, both just, I guess, how has it benefited, like, between giving the players, coaches, referees, like, giving them a chance to kind of be almost like a playground to own their craft, I guess. So like,
I think
what have you seen that's really been like helpful to them?
I think what I hear the most is, they can put it on film. All right. They can put their plays and their ability on film at the professional level. People say, well, Alabama or whatever, 2 years, it was the best team. Well, that's fine, but only 8 or 9 or whatever the number is off the best team and the most number even get drafted. So, there's an awful lot of players that are not as good as a professional. So they're getting all the professionals, the guys that are drafted at that level. And unfortunately, there aren't a whole lot of spots at a training camp. If you watch these, shows and stuff, they show that there's really only 5 or 6 positions opening. So there's good players that can help a team down the line once an injury occurs or whatever, that can fill in a spot, or there's just guys that get overlooked. A coach has his, guy that he knew a connection with in college, so he keeps him. And a player that's got his ability just doesn't have a chance to show. They only have 3 preseason games, right?
Mhm.
So there's so many things that the UFL can do to help a player who's been overlooked or maybe he got himself in some trouble. It's like, it's no different than an official making a mistake on the field. People are human. They make mistakes in their private life too. And if that happened and they can correct themselves from that, they deserve a chance. Right? It's the old Ted Lasso line. I love that show. I don't know if you guys watch Ted Lasso, but
I've started.
it's like, let's not be judged by our lowest moment. Let's be judged by what happens when we're given the second chance and what we do with it. And that's a very powerful thing to remember as a parent or as a spouse or as an official or as a coach and as a player. You see so many of those players that are there for the love of the game. They're proving they love it. You wouldn't be doing it for what they're getting paid. So they're proving they love it. If I'm a coach in the NFL and I see a guy busting his butt in the UFL for what he's getting paid, I'm going to give him a chance. He's going to be brought into my training camp, and then he can show me amongst my players, maybe a little bit better level. And if he stands his own in that, give him a shot in a preseason game. If he rises to the occasion in the preseason game, go from there. And I'm going to just duck out and grab a book that I want to self-promote here.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fantastic book. If it's backwards, I apologize. It's called Training Camp by John Gordon. I think if you guys write it down, Training Camp by John Gordon, it doesn't matter what your profession is, lawyer, Jay, whatever. It's about a guy who tries out for the Atlanta Falcons. Real life, okay? Real life. This really happened. And I don't want to be a spoiler, but you follow his journey trying out for the Falcons as I think he was a free agent. I don't want to be quoted on that. But I have so many handwritten notes in this. There's so many things to use officiating at clinics and camps that you guys are going to have me back on just to talk about training camps someday. It's about making the little things that make us the best.
Written down.
Yeah, I'm writing that down right now as you speak about it. Coach,
Training camp. Okay, the title is "What the Best Do Better Than Everyone Else." So you can correlate that into whatever you do in life. You don't have to be a referee. You don't have to be a player. It's about a football player trying out for a team, and he really buys into just being the best at what he can. He's got some limited ability. I think he's not It's been a while since I read it again because I just take excerpts out when I teach my clinics and stuff. But he's a little undersized. He got passed over, but he's doing everything right to make this team.
That's really good. I mean,
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that story. Listen, I myself always personally love a good underdog story.
If you get this book, you will read it in less than a week. You're a sports fan. And you're all perfectionists. You wouldn't be doing this show if you didn't care. And it's just going to bleed out into other things. It's an awesome book.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks.
Appreciate you sharing that with us. I just wrote that down on my little sticky note thing on my desktop here. Kenny is back and says, "Great stuff. Can I ask one more? I would love to know." And this is pretty much what I was about to ask.
I got to meet Kenny.
Yeah.
This question comes up a lot. It's fine. Go ahead and read it, Scoop.
Yeah, would love to know during your NFL days which player and coach gave you the hardest time.
All right. First of all, I'm going to say evidently Kenny he liked my get rid of the roughing the passer or grounding rule, right? Not roughing the passer. Grounding.
Yeah.
It'll protect quarterbacks. One or two are going to make it through the season more because of that. But anyhow, what player or coach gave me the hardest time? First of all, what player gave me the hardest time? Really, I had pretty good rapport with the players and coaches. I can't even have anything that sticks out in my head as a player giving me a hard time. Maybe a call here or there, but you know how to diffuse that. I'd rather go the other way and say like Richard Sherman, kidded with me and called me the skinny sheriff and liked me, but he also liked me because he knew where I stood. I knew I was going to call it. They were back in the Legion of Doom days, and they did a lot of holding. Okay, that was like their whole. Well, that would I see you smiling and stuff, but that was their whole. They would chuck at the line. They can't chuck after 5, and then they would grab and they would hold on. And I would tell them, Richard, you grab 3 plays in a row. I'm going to throw 3 plays in a row, and you better not test me because I will. No, I know, man. I know. I'm telling my boys we're not going to hold today. They'd still hold, but you'd get it and they'd move on. You'd be amazed. You get less complaining and chippiness the higher level you go, really. Mm-hmm. The players are pros. They know you got a job to do. They know you're going to get graded. Head coaches are very, very single-minded. They're worrying about, what they have to do next. You get some assistant coaches, they get fiery. Special teams coaches get really fiery because that's their personality. Mm-hmm. But to answer Kenny's question, coach probably difficult-wise was Harbaugh, just because he would be like so intense. And
just out of curiosity, Jim or John?
Jim, the one that was at Michigan, and now he's Jim. Yeah. So intense, and then so not when the game wasn't going on. Like I am who I am, you get it, and it's pretty much the same way now as I am during the game. And so you guys can all deal with that. You're getting a sense. But when you're talking about playing minor league baseball for the Tigers, when you're sitting on the bench before the game, and then you can't even put a sentence together because you're so mad and intense during the game, that's tougher to deal with. Not that I couldn't deal with them. You would just talk them off the mountain and, I don't know how you felt, and meet loud talk with soft, and he would come back down. But it's hard when you're always dealing with that as the game's going on.
Yeah. Somehow that doesn't really surprise me. He definitely seems like a bit of an intense personality. I think we heard a little bit about that when he was going through the job process when he was trying to come back from Michigan to the NFL.
But that's also what makes him thrive. Like, we had a guy on our crew, Ron Ferries. He was the oldest official in the NFL. He was 70, 69 turning 70. So Ron, when I was working, had Harbaugh as a player, and he would come over, when he saw him yelling. Ron was on the other sideline than us, but he'd come over and go, he was the same way when he played. He was the same way when he played. And his point was, it's just the game starts, and he just that's what motivated him. That's what got him to be the way he is. So, it is what it is. Doesn't make the referee's wife very happy. Lou called them hard balls, but that is what it is. Can I say that on your show?
I'm probably going to say something worse later. So
Yeah.
I've been on the show for 82 episodes, and Jay's been on for at least probably close to half of that. So I'm pretty sure we're used to it at this point. Mr. Heron says, hey guys. Says smash that like button and share. Mr. Heron, appreciate it. He makes almost every show, and I don't honestly know how. But really appreciate it, Mr. Heron. Hope you enjoy the weekend of both baseball and football. I know your Brewers have been playing well. It says Dallas by 3, my guys. Okay, can I retract that? I'll retract that. I hope the football season goes well for you. But I hope you watch some good games. I'll go with that one. But Prescott going to have a great game.
Oh, jeez.
How do we hang up on a comment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we hit the dump button? Yeah.
But anyway, so I lost my train of thought now. I had a specific place I was going after that. Now I lost my train of thought.
Well, do we have time for one more UFL question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Kenny had said, I'm asking because of the Yankees Astros game last night. So, Brandon, do we want to go back to the UFL or do we want to go with this one real quick?
Well, I'll just toss one more UFL thing out.
All right, go ahead.
Because we were just I caught it when you mentioned it, Coach, about how when you get up at each level, how kind of different it is when it comes to certain players, certain coaches, things like that. So I guess at the UFL level, because there's so many like younger guys, but there's also a lot of veterans there too. It's a real kind of big mix of guys trying to either get back to the league or just stay in football or whatever the case may be. So like just like in the NFL, with guys who gave you a good time, a good ribbing or a hard time, in the UFL, who were some guys that did that for you?
The pro guys have to stay focused on what they're doing. I mean, there's no one that really jumps out. The coaches are all kind of veteran guys that have been around. Mike Nolan was the 49ers coach way back when. And I think too, as you get older and you look back on things, you're like, I might have yelled about that in my first 10 years, but now I realize I'm better off communicating it with the official than yelling at it. And you can see that with the coaches too. Anthony Beck, big fiery guy when he played. I was on the field with Anthony. He was a tight end. And now he's flamboyant and a little bit fun to be around. Let's say fun with quotes. He's a coach in St. Louis, but he's not that fiery guy that he was as a player. He's fiery with his players, but he also communicates. You get far more as a coach and a player communicating with officials than you do just yelling. They get that as it goes up. I was telling one guy today in a Zoom call training, look at the reaction of the defensive back here. And he got pushed by the offensive player, but live, the first time you watched it, you thought it was the other way around. You thought the defender pushed the receiver, but the defender was the one who was kind of reacting to it, like to the refs. Hey, I got pushed. Very, very rarely in the pro level does the guy that reacts spontaneously just out of emotion, is he wrong? Like I always told myself when a player kind of got after me on a call, I'm wrong. I'm probably wrong and he's right. Because at that level, they know what is a foul. They know what the other opponent's doing. They know what they did. And they're not going to kind of snow you and try to make something up. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Yeah.
But you literally, if you got a little bit from a player in the right way, then you needed to talk to them. Like, so if they were loud at me and like really getting after me, I'd go, hey, if you talk to me, I will talk to you. If you ask me a question, I will answer it. So let's just chill a second and tell me what you're mad about. I got pushed, ref. I got pushed. And this is a receiver saying this to me. I go, well, you got held. I got held, ref. I got held, ref. Well, the play went over there. So if it came this way, I would have called it. But it went over there, and we don't call that. We'll do it for the same team. And we're talking, and they'll come back down, and they'll go, okay. But it's amazing when you're dealing with little kids, they don't do that. Vince Lombardi, high school, they just complain about everything. But the higher level you go, they tend to, now that you can't throw that all in one ball and say they're always going to do that. But more often than not, if they say something to you about a play, it did happen that way.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love how your bringing everything back kind of comes to just kind of being a mediator of essentially, and basically trying to do your best to equalize, I guess you'd say, or neutralize some of the
De-escalate.
Yeah, when you were prepping with this, Scoop, you mentioned like what happened in the Yankee game the other night with the umpiring and stuff. And, you know, I think the biggest problem, and I'm going to correlate it to the way they're coming up through now, is that the young officials are losing the ability to communicate. And I don't know if it's because of the reliance on a telephone and texting or computers, and I'm not blaming all that for it, but if when I go to the camps and clinics with young officials that are trying to get into Conference USA and Mountain West that I grade and train in, I'm like, your number one skill has to be communicator. You have to be. If you're not a good communicator, you're never going to get to the higher levels of officiating, because it really comes down to making good decisions on the fly that you're trained for, and then communicating them. And you know, that's why the one question about a player and coach that gave you the most hard time. I mean, I officiated in front of Bill Belichick. I mean, nobody's harder. Nobody knows the rules more than him. He's going to test you on it. He's going to test you on everything. But if you communicated properly with him, he left you alone. You know, it's like if you can communicate, you can diffuse so many of the problems.
Right. Yeah. Thank you again, Coach. I appreciate some of the depths to which you, and just the detail orientation.
And just to ask you a question, because I didn't watch the whole game, but wasn't the home plate ump really struggling with his balls and strikes? And he was
outside.
Getting this from the one dugout, and then he was getting the same thing from the other. And it looked like he wasn't, and I wasn't watching enough to pass any real judgment on it, but it just looked like he was getting angry while they were getting angry, and nothing good comes of that. You know,
right.
Like if Jazz is getting chirpy, which he tends to do, I've watched, I mean, I'm a Yankee fan too. And it seems like sometimes Jazz escalates his chirpiness. I would de-escalate him in a second. First of all, I'd be talking with him before the game even started. Like, hey, Jazz, you know, big one tonight. You're going to get my strike zone. It is what it is, and I'm never going to change. And kind of like set the stage with those guys that you think are liable to be that way. That ump was getting stuff from both sides, and he was just yarping back at him, and I don't think that's the way to handle it.
No.
Yeah, I think also what came out. So, have you seen, Coach? Have you seen the thing that came out? I don't remember when it came out, but it was a few years ago. This thing that came out called Ump Scorecard.
Is that where they're saying whether he's hitter friendly or pitcher friendly or no?
No.
It's like that percent. It's that percentage thing, right, Scoop? Like percentage of balls and strikes missed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it basically is how consistent. It breaks it down a lot of different ways. How consistent was the umpire? Did the umpire tend to favor the home team or the away team? And I know that the word favor I know is a loaded term, but did the calls that he made tend to favor the home team or the away team? Because yesterday it was calculated that essentially what ended up being the margin of the game was within the margin of calls that he made that ended up favoring Houston. So there was a lot of tension about that because of the eighth inning and all of that. I'm not going to replay the whole
but all that harkens back to what I said is, and so that's the word analytics, I guess. So all the camera views, like you asked me how it's like there's 32 cameras at an average NFL game. They're analytically knowing what each crew calls, and all those things get jumbled into people looking for an excuse why their team lost, in my humble opinion. You win or lose very rarely because of the officials. And I know you got an official on this call and people don't want to hear that, but if we make a mistake, 2 mistakes, let's call it 4 mistakes a game, chances are it's 2-2. Okay. And you don't see that because you're wearing green, and 2 that went against green, are the ones you focus on. But really, for the most part, the professional officials are where they're there because they belong there. I think they're lacking in being stressed as they come up, that communication is an important part of being the better ones.
I would definitely agree with that, because I think one of the biggest things that I think caught my attention recently, and I know the three of us have talked about it. Well, it had nothing to even do with last night's game against Houston. It was the times that we've seen it. I think it happened to Jazz. I know it happened to Caballero at least once, where he'll say 2 seconds of words or whatever, which I know that there's a lot of things you can say in 2 seconds, but it didn't appear that any of those specific ones were said. And basically, these guys are getting run almost immediately, and it's and I'll see multiple instances where I ended up agreeing with the call that the ump made, but just the fact that they ran the guy out of the game, which could be what's the word I'm looking for? Pivotal and consequential. After 2 seconds of speaking, I think sometimes that's what gets my attention more than anything else. It's not the call itself.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what goes into that. It could be some past stuff. It could be, I think I heard Cohn the other night. I don't know what night it was. He said you can and I agreed with how he said it. It fits into a lot of football.
I think I know where you're going with this.
You can say that was a bad call. You can't say you're bad. Something like that.
Yeah, that's where I thought you were going with this. Yeah.
And I know he was keeping it very general, but that's a good point. Like,
yeah.
I think we all know we're going to make some bad calls. That's kind of like what I would say. I would say, Coach, if it happened the way you said it, it's not how I saw it, but maybe I'm wrong. And I mean, I can fill your head with stories like Jason Witten, first game of the year. We had
if Nicole's still watching, she'll love this.
Cowboys at Jets, and the last drive of the game, Cowboys are driving, and they throw a pass into the end zone, and Jimmy Quirk, who's still in the NFL, and I both have offensive pass interference, takes the touchdown away. Winton catches it. Winning touchdown, last play of the game, second last play of the game or last. I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah.
Monday night game, I'm going to say like maybe 2013 or whatever. Opening night, not Monday night, whatever the first game was, Thursday night. And it takes it away, and we're going off the field, and Winton gets right in my face, Jimmy, that call sucked. You took the game away from us. It was the winning touchdown, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure it was more colorful than that. Huge man.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, Jason, we got you again this season. Do me a favor, watch the play. Next time I see you, let me know what you think. Because I'm 100%, not 100, 99% sure it's offensive pass interference. Well, it was. It gets graded correct. To his credit, we had him later, 7-8 week of the season in Dallas, because you don't get the team twice in their place, but you might get them twice, one home, one away.
Right.
And he came right up to me before the game, Jimmy, I wanted to send you a note, and the league wouldn't let me. You were right. I was wrong. And I apologize for how I acted. I mean, that's the professionalism that's out there that people don't see. That's the non-transparency. And I guarantee you, if at the time internet was as big as it is now, it'd be blowing up what a horrible call it was by me. And, that's fine. They can do that. Everyone has the right to do that. And the means now with the internet, but the thing that mattered was the player watched it and, came right back later and said he was wrong. I mean, Brady did the same thing to me in Buffalo. I gave him pretty much the same comment. I said, hey, Tom, you got the film back there. Go look at it. The still frames at the time, that's all they had. UFL has the laptop they can watch the play now. I don't know if the NFL allows that. I don't think they do. They still have to have the stills. Correct me if I don't even know. We'll watch and see if they can look at the plays. Anyhow, Brady came right up to me. I'm standing on the sideline because I'm a side judge, and he tapped me on the shoulder while play was over, and he goes, hey, I watched this. I looked at the still film. You were right. It's like that's the competitiveness in them. There's nothing wrong with that. I think I sent you a still picture of Rivers in my face, right, Scoop? If you want to put that up some other week and show, it's like Rivers came down the field and got on me about something, but it was his intensity. He wanted to win. We didn't have a problem with that. Just don't come down and get in an official's face. Do it on the sideline behind my back. That's fine. Say whatever you want. No one knows it's happening. You and I will deal with it. But don't make a show of it. And that's what I think Jazz has got to learn personally. He's got to learn how to make a show of it. Say what he's got to say and don't make a show of it. And because he can't afford to get run. If it's a playoff game, he gets run.
Yep.
That's going to cost him.
That's it. That's it.
Exactly. And I would also say the same, I mean, Caballero's been here for a month and he's already gotten run twice, both in pivotal moments. And again, none of us, I don't think any of us will ever know, quote unquote, was it justified or not? Because obviously we don't know what was said or what wasn't. But like you said, I think that and I think where the disconnect comes with fans as well. I think sometimes fans, look at it and they say, well, at least he's passionate, he cares, he wants to win. And I'm thinking to myself, are you going to tell me Jeter didn't want to win? Jeter, I think, said three words in his entire career. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. It's like you can be passionate without venting it, but also you got to be yourself. And I think he's flamboyant, and some of his flamboyance in this, but it can't happen at a bad time. It can happen in a 9-1 game or something, it is what it is. Yeah. You can always have this debate, and it's sports.
Oh, absolutely. It was something that I thought of, so I wanted to add it. And then I'm going to go to Kenny's comment here, which has been up for about 5 minutes. I watched a video where his strike zone was bad for both Yankees and the Angels last year. I'm assuming this goes back to the umpire from yesterday, whose name's escaping me right now. Even though I had it written down. To me, managers should know the umpire and talk to their team in the locker room. Just my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. You can say, I can tell you for a fact, NFL teams say it's the Vinovich crew, and this is what they call more often than not.
Yeah.
Let's say we're light on the amount of defensive holds that are called. Now, that's a factor of the teams you have. If you have the better teams, they're more often they're liable to do some things better than other teams do. So if you have the lower level teams, they're liable to be committing more and more penalties. I think that probably averages the way it happens. But right. I agree with what Kenny said. I agree. You should prep them. You should say, listen, this guy, we've had him in the past. He's going to be all over the place with his balls and strikes. Just go up there and be aggressive, or go up there and, whatever your strategy is, then stick to it and just deal with it. And that's the professional way of handling, to be quite honest with you, is just deal with it. And, the pitchers are out there. They're the ones that should be the ones getting upset, in my opinion, not the batters.
That's fair. That's very fair. And we did see that with Williams, I think, last night after the 8th inning, which again, you guys, I think, both saw it. I didn't see it. But I do know that happened. And then, of course, for those who didn't see it, Jazz went on social media last night, went and said some very colorful things to a couple people.
Is he going to get suspended? I didn't know that happened.
I don't know if you can get suspended for saying that type of thing to a fan.
I always said it to a fan. I thought he was commenting on the umpiring.
It was indirect. It was like
he said it to a fan with the
about the umpire.
The context being in the context of what the umpires were, or the umpire was tending to do in that late part of the game. And also, I'll add that Chisholm struck out to end the game after they had just come back to a one-run, made it a one-run game on a Bellinger homer. He struck out to end the game on a controversial call itself. So I think that definitely, when he's the last out in a situation like that, it definitely doesn't help. But again, like you said, it's emotions
on a 3-2 count, no less too.
And it's close. And in my opinion, I'm not going to let the umpire decide. I'm going to take a hack at that, because Jazz could tie the game up with the swing.
That's another good point that I hadn't even thought of.
Yeah, it's borderline. It could be a ball. It could be a strike. But if you're the man and he's close to being one of the men on the team, right? The man that you want up there. I don't know if obviously you want Judge up there or Stanton, but Jazz is right up there in the top 5 that you would want up there. It's like let's take a hack at this. It's close.
Yeah, and I know the three of us have talked plenty about watching too many pitches and not being aggressive enough at the plate.
Yeah, it's a fine line, because you got to work the count, but it's 3-2. There's no more work in the count at 3-2.
Right, exactly. Excuse me. Now, Coach, obviously one of the things that I started with in the beginning, and I know we haven't gotten to it yet, and I want to make sure that we do leave a decent amount of time for you to say it before I know you have to go and
you guys got to go because your Eagles are about to go.
Yeah. So we'll make
I'm wearing the shirt.
Yeah. So, Coach, I mentioned in the beginning, this nonprofit that I know you've been involved with for a while. It's grateful to be able to see a little bit closer view of what that was like a couple years ago. Tell us a little bit about what Battlefields to Ballfields is, what your role with that is, and I've got the link up for anybody who's interested. Write down the link right there. It'll also be in the chat.
If you have the link up, that's enough. Battlefields to Ballfields, the number 2.org is the link. Battlefields to Ballfields.org. It's Mike Pereira's baby. It's not Jimmy DeBell's. I just happen to sit on his board, and I also facilitate, besides board meetings, the Western New York area veterans that become Battlefields to Ballfield scholarship winners. And what it does is it's a foundation that's fully non-for-profit, fully funded by people's donations. So if anyone wants to be on the website and see what it's all about and make a donation, just say that, saw me talking about it on your show. And, I think Mike would be very pleased if they did that. It helps veterans become youth sports officials. And long story short, how he came about it, he said he didn't want to be known as the person that took football officials out of white knickers and into black pants with a white stripe. He wanted to be known for something other than the white knickers, and which was a great thing, by the way, because Pylon looked a lot better in black and white knickers. And I have actually, I was wearing white knickers when I had the orange shirt, so it was not a good look. But anyhow, I digress.
The Ricky Fowler.
It helps veterans who are struggling with acclimating back into society. I mean, you got to take the mindset of a veteran. They've been giving to the country and giving to others their whole career in the military. And all of a sudden they transition out for, whatever. Maybe they were in the military for 25 years and it was time to retire. Or maybe they were in it for 4 and it wasn't for them, but they still had to buy into that giving to the community mindset. And a lot of them struggle. I mean, I dealt with one in Rochester, New York, who had severe PTSD and was considering, suicide. And he's quite frank about it. He says it. And, he heard about Battlefields to Ballfields. He applied for a scholarship. He got it. And he now officiates 3 sports in the Western New York area. And he's surviving. He battles his PTSD every day. I check in on him every now and then. As a matter of fact, I'm going to check in on him tomorrow and tell him we talked about him tonight. And they found that veterans stick to it. Most people get into youth officiating. They get screamed at so much by the soccer dad that they don't want to do it anymore and they give it up. They, like I said, at the lower levels, you're facing a lot as an official. And then the higher level, it gets, weeded out and they realize you're doing your job and you let them do their job. They'll let you do yours. They just couldn't retain the lack of youth officials across the country is threatening youth sports everywhere. They have basketball officials working JV game and varsity game, and they have football officials working modified games, JV games, varsity games all in one day because they just don't have enough in certain areas. So Mike wanted to help the lack of youth officials and the veteran that was struggling with how he could get back to his community. He just combined the both into Battlefields to Ballfields, and it's been super successful. Over 1,000 scholarships are given out, and to veterans, all they have to do, if you know a veteran that's thinking of doing this, wants to be a youth official, they're not going to be in the NFL overnight. It took me, 20 years, and it takes people time to help at the level they're at, whatever it is. And so if you know of a veteran or you like the cause, go to the website and see it. So that's my spiel. I'm not a salesman. I'm more of a football official.
That's I love it.
Appreciate it, Coach. And
appreciate you letting me talk about it.
Absolutely. I know that a lot of us wanted to want to hear about this type of thing. I'm very grateful that you were on here tonight for that. Says Coach Kenny says Scoops wants to write a couple of sentences on it. We can mention it on all shows is what I think that's supposed to say. So Coach, you and I can discuss that later on if you're open to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the best thing about the website is it's kind of somewhat interactive. It has some videos, and you just go click on the video, and I can give you the link to Jameson, the guy I talked about in Rochester. It's really difficult to watch the Jameson video. A area sportscaster, Rich Donnelly, Channel 10 here in Rochester, New York, did a clip on it. And I mean, it goes into his office at his job that he had, and his Army helmet's there, including a bullet ricochet that he suffered when he was fighting for our country. I mean, it's very emotional, but it's also makes you say what a great cause, because he talks about how youth officiating got him over the hump and got him feeling good about himself again, that he could help his community, that he did have something to live for. And just good stuff. And he's not the only one. The website shows a bunch of different stories.
Yeah, I remember, and I was grateful that, I think Jameson's the one to whom, you introduced me, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Yep, you've met him. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, it's like we all came up playing sports, or we wouldn't be sports fans. And without that guy, it might have just been the varsity baseball player that was umping, on the Saturday Little League game. Without that person, you wouldn't have had that Little League game. You don't think about that when you're playing. You don't think about that when you're a parent, you're bringing your child to it, but it's the truth. If you don't have somebody there that people want to yell at and that is controlling the game the best they can, you wouldn't have the sport. And that our youth need sports. They need something to play. Just
Absolutely.
as much to watch the game tonight, they need to play the game too.
Absolutely. Got a lot of very kind comments coming in. Everyone from Kenny to David Burns to Mr. Ronquillo. Everybody talking about the game tonight. A lot of people saying that they're on the side of our birds. So very nice to see. I'm not going to make Coach take a side, because he's very impartial, and
I always say I root for the third team on the field.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Eagles guys here are my friends, so I'll say that.
Yeah, again,
You're a good new friend too.
Very grateful that you came back on. You shared a lot with us tonight. Even some things. I mean, I've known you for how long, and even some things I've heard for the first time. So thank you for that. You
still got my quote on your computer at school, I hope. Today's grades.
Today's grades are tomorrow's resume.
There you go.
Coach, I'm gonna be honest. I've got about 9 quotes from you on my laptop. So, excuse me. Excuse me. Do you have time, real quick, before we all sign off? Do you have time to run through that Steelers gem, or not?
As long as an Eagle fan that has a game tonight wants to hear my Pittsburgh Steelers story, I can tell it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll set it up by saying it was my first preseason game ever. So my first time donning the NFL stripes, which are right there. And out of nowhere, Mike Pereira is there, who was my supervisor and boss, who hired me. And that was unheard of. Like, Pereira didn't show up at games, but for some reason, my first game he's at, and it probably just worked out. He was traveling back from the West Coast where he lived to the East Coast of New York, where he worked out of Park Avenue, and Pittsburgh's preseason game was on the way. So anyhow, that added a little bit of tension, but you've all watched the first preseason game of the year. Both teams have 95 guys, right?
Right.
95 big men standing on a sideline that usually accommodates 53. So basically double the amount of players. So they end up everywhere on the sideline, and the starters play one series. Okay. So Roethlisberger's the starter for the Steelers, and he plays his 4 plays. I think he hands off 3 times, and he's out. Takes off his, jersey, takes off his shoulder pads. He's standing on the sideline with just a hat cut because it's August, and his pants. And there's a mob of guys, and like his boys are around him, and he's down near the 20-yard line. So as a side judge, you go backwards. You huddle backwards. You're looking at the play like this. So you've got to have that white area cleared. If you played football, you heard a football official say, everybody back, everybody out of the white. I never spent a lot of time saying that. I just said, I got to work here, guys. Let me work. So play goes, and I either bump into someone or I realize he's there, and I get out of the way, and I look back, and it's Roethlisberger. right? And I mean, he is a mountain of a man. I mean, he's 6'6", 270. I don't care what they listed him at. He's a mountain, right? And I'm 5'11", 148, slit dripping wet. I'm the skinny sheriff. So,
Sure.
you know, I'm like, hey Ben, you know, can you do me a favor? And he's like, huh? What, ref? I go, can you kind of move back? You know, get out of the white because I'm backpedaling here. I don't see you. And you know, let's face it, if I run into you, you're gonna win and I'm gonna lose. You know, I'm not gonna win that. I'm not gonna win that collision. And I didn't know it, but literally standing right there is Tomlin when I'm having this conversation. So he like looks at me and he goes, huh? And I go, can you get out of the white? Because if I run into you, I'm going to get hurt and you're not. He looks at Tomlin and he goes, hey, coach, this ref just called me fat. And I go,
no.
I can say anything. Like, no, I didn't. You know, I was about to say, no, I didn't. I told you to just get out of the white because if I run into you, I'm going to get hurt. Tomlin like looks at him. He looks at me, and before I can say anything, and he goes, you are. Quarterback fat. So days later, Tomlin walks up to me and he whispers in my ear, he's just self-conscious because we told him he had to lose a little weight before the season started.
Okay, that part I've never heard before.
Oh no.
Yeah. I'm like, coach, I think I started. I think I said, coach, I didn't call him. He goes, hey, Jimmy, relax. He's just self-conscious. Because he had his shirt off. He had like the cut off, you know, the typical played my 3 plays and now I'm out for, you know, till next week. But yeah, and he was just busting my chops. They knew it was my first game. They, you know, but it was good stuff. But that's my Ben Roethlisberger story.
Oh, thank you for sharing that because
awesome.
I oh my gosh.
And Tomlin's reaction was perfect. I mean,
Like,
you are.
When you say what Tomlin said to you, I can actually hear his voice as he's saying it. But oh my gosh, well, Coach, thank you so much. I know you've got something that you got to go take care of. I think the 3 of us know what we're going to go do. But Coach, I can't thank you enough. Thanks again. I'm gonna put the.
I'll be on again if you ask. If people like it, I'll come again. I do anything for you.
You know that I'll ask you.
I hope they know that I'm the one that gave you the nickname.
The scoop thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, they know that I named you that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I mean, the first time I met him, he knows more about the Yankees than I did, and I thought I knew everything about him. So I mean, this guy's got all the scoop. He still sends me the scoop. He tells me who's on the roster and who's going up and down.
Well, and then it's like it's so funny because like you texted me something a day or 2 ago. And you know I responded to it, but I'll go 4 or 5 days, and I'm like, did Coach change his number? Like, is he okay?
And then
I realized, wait a second, it's 8:30 where I am, and I'm in a different time zone than you. You're probably just sleeping.
I'm already in bed. Yes, it's 8:24. We're 6 minutes from my bedtime.
Yeah, you're the early bird between the 2 of us.
I'm up at 5. Yes.
Woo.
Yes. God bless you. That all being said, all right, Coach, I'll definitely be asking you to come on again soon. I'm very grateful that you were able to make time today. And Kenny just said, Jim's the best. He said, any of our network shows, you're welcome, Coach. So, you know, you've got open invitation, not only from here, but from everybody over here at K&K. So, again, thank you. Looking forward to having you on again soon. And I know that you've definitely increased the viewership for the UFL going forward. So,
well, if your team wins tonight, I mean, am I the good luck charm, or is it just that they were going to win anyhow?
You definitely deserve a share of the credit.
All right, cool.
All right,
thanks, guys.
Coach. Thanks again, and guys, you know, again, very well spent hour. A fantastic show, and guys, we'll see you next Thursday, September 11th. 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Same Scoop time, same Scoop channel. Scoop, Brandon, Jay, and Coach DeBell out.
Go Birds!
Go Birds!